Continuing this morning, I find an article here. Trump prepares to shake up U.S. Venezuela policy. Again, I think this goes hand in hand with the new Trump Monroe Doctrine. I really do. How are you going to keep China out? How are you going to keep Russia out? How are you going to keep other hemispheric, we'll call them less than allies, out? You make a deal. This is the story I found. Trump prepares to shake up U.S. Venezuela policy again. The two countries' near simultaneous inaugurations could lead to change. And there's definitely a portion in this that I want to go through. I think really kind of links into the rest of the Monroe Doctrine. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe. Let's get started. As I've been pointing out in the last number of videos, I believe there's a new foreign policy doctrine being articulated by President Trump. It's the Trump-Monroe Doctrine, where Eastern Hemispheric, less than allies, down to adversaries, just stay out. Just stay out. It's a reiteration of the Monroe Doctrine, which was basically designed for European powers to stay out of the Western Hemisphere. That no colonization or anything approaching that would be tolerated in the Western Hemisphere and would be resisted by the United States by any and all means. It's my belief that President Trump is doing the same thing right now, except he is including everyone. There will not be anyone excluded from this. And part of his strategy will be to finish the Venezuelan problem one way or another. I think Panama plays into that really quite a bit. Because as I was saying in yesterday's Panama video, the Darien Gap in Panama, and then if we were to retake the Panama Canal, that's our first line of defense against migrants. Also, if we weren't able to strike a deal with Venezuela, which we're going to go into this article here, which I will of course link into this video, and they talk about the possibility of a deal. If we weren't able to make a deal and things went south and our options became few and far between, having those basing options in Panama would really be beneficial. Would really be beneficial. But in this article, they point out something that, because the choice of Marco Rubio was always a little baffling to me. Why Marco? A lot of other people made more sense than Marco Rubio. Unless one of your foreign policy pillars is the reinstitution of the Monroe Doctrine, and your goal is to solidify your base, Latin, South, Caribbean, Americas. Let me bring this up. When Trump picked Senator Rubio as his Secretary of State nominee, it appeared that maximum pressure might return. Rubio is a Venezuelan hawk. But the prognosis was complicated over the weekend when Trump tapped his former acting intelligence chief, Richard Grenell, as presidential envoy for special missions, including Venezuela. During Trump's first administration, Grenell reportedly had a discreet meeting with a top Maduro administration official to try to negotiate the Venezuelan leader's exit. Although that was unsuccessful, it suggests that Grenell may be open to deploying carrots in addition to sticks. At the end of Trump's first term, the U.S. Department of State released a framework for a negotiated democratic transition in Venezuela. Grenell did not respond to Foreign Policy's request for comment about the priorities on an approach to Venezuela. U.S. talks with Maduro could lead to outcomes Other than his exit, some U.S. oil executives have pushed for a deal with the Venezuelan leader that would see Washington normalize economic relations in exchange for Caracas working to control its migrant outflows. Trump, for his part, repeated 4 times in his Monday press conference that Venezuela will take back its migrants from the United States. Maduro has called Trump's second term a new start for us to bet on a win-win. Let's hope so. There's no reason we can't negotiate. If the people of Venezuela, in an honest and true election, as honest and true as 2020, something wrong with my eye there. If something as honest as true as 2020 want to keep Maduro, then let's work with them. If they happen to not, and they bring in someone else, let's work with them. There's no reason to cut ourselves off from an oil supply. There's no reason to cut ourselves off from negotiations, because this would also be, as the article states, a great way of possibly controlling migrant flows. You take back the Panama Canal. You cut a deal with Maduro. You basically make the Darien Gap a jungle again, unused. Works for me. That, along with securing the southern border, building the wall. My suggestion is bringing some troops home, putting them on the border. There's no reason they can't be on the border. They should be on the border. As though I did a previous video on how U.S. troops should be used on the U.S. border. They should be taken from other portions of the world where they're certainly not needed. Troops in Syria. Why do we have troops in Syria? The Pentagon says we have, 1,500 to 2,000 troops in Syria? Really? Bring them home, put them on the border. Why not? Posse comitatus, we already proved that we can, for something like this, we can use U.S. federal troops on the border. So between a deal with Venezuela, which I do believe will happen, I think this article really kind of outlines the basis, just the basis. We're not talking specifics for a deal here. And if Maduro thinks there's a possibility, that means there's been communication in my book. I think the retaking of the Panama Canal is a real thing. I think it's absolutely, genuinely real. I think it is actually a cornerstone of the Trump-Monroe Doctrine. I really do. I was reading today that 73% of all traffic that goes through the Panama Canal is in one way or another linked to the United States, going to or from a United States port or from a U.S. port to another U.S. port. That makes it in our interest. I really think that it's a pillar of the new Trump-Monroe Doctrine. I think that Venezuela can be taken care of peacefully without there being the need for a war. This would also stop China, Russia in their tracks, right there. Because if they're working with us, they have no reason to work with them. Because they'll make enough money from us, because that's what they're interested in. I think the president is uniquely suited for this. And it's my hope that this article is absolutely accurate. And that we have a deal. Maduro and Trump. I'd love to see a meeting. He met with Kim. There's no reason he can't meet with Maduro. What if we retake the Panama Canal and we meet at Howard Air Force Base in Panama? Something like that. But that's all I got for right now. I do appreciate you stopping by. Thank you.